Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are. Catania Alvin, and here I've got this third part, and Mike Pence is about to speak, and this is President Trump's national address. So here we go.
That is taking place. We may add a few things onto our discussions over the weekend, but I'm going to ask Mike Pence, and then I'll have Leader McCarthy say a few words, and we'll take a couple of questions. But we're very proud of the jobs and the job numbers. That was incredible. And I think I'll be even more proud if we can have great border security for the first time in really the history of our country. The southern border is a dangerous, horrible disaster. We've done a great job, but you can't really do the kind of job we have to do unless you have a major, powerful barrier. And that's what we're going to have. So first we start with Mike Pence.
Before Mike Pence, I want to bring a helicopter up, going along the border.
Clear across the runway. We are coming off the Gulf of Mexico right now, moving into the mouth of the Rio Grande River, starting a 2,000-mile expedition or journey along the U.S.-Mexico border through Texas, then on to New Mexico, Arizona, coming out of San Diego, California. Our mission is to survey and inspect the border fencing and the border security systems all along the way. What all would be involved with trying to build what President Trump has called a big, beautiful wall.
Along much of the border as we were flying along, I didn't know where the border was, especially in Texas, because there is no fence, there's no barrier. The only thing we had to guide us, basically, was inside the helicopter. We had a software system hooked up to our video camera, so I could look at the video screen and it showed a red line delineating where the border is based on GPS markings. The border in Texas follows the Rio Grande, the entire length of the state. It's over 1,200 miles. It's more than half of the entire U.S.-Mexico border.
My assignment is to drive the whole extent of the U.S.-Mexico border. We started in the Gulf of Mexico. From there, we just headed west. There's some places where you can just walk right up to the river, and there's places where you don't even know where the international border is.
As you fly up this river and you look out over it, the sheer length of it just seems overwhelming. So we are descending now onto what almost certainly is the first sign of a border fence.
There's 650 miles or so of fencing, a whole 2,000-mile border. 300 miles are vehicle barriers. They're not designed to stop human traffic. But what you have is a border that's 2,000 miles long with roughly 350 miles of pedestrian fencing. The rest of it's open, more or less. There's a distinction that's kind of getting lost in the political debate about this whole thing, and that is people are now referring to the fence that exists as a wall, and it's not a wall. The wall that the president has called for is 20 feet at least, and more likely 30 feet tall. The existing fencing at the very highest is 18 feet, much of it's 15 feet, and there's only 300 miles of that. One of the things that was really driven home by this trip was just the immense distances we're talking about, but also the incredible topography.
Until you see it, you don't realize.
The landscape challenges that exist to building any kind of barrier along much of the border.
This is the Big Bend National Park. It is the largest protected area of Chihuahuan Desert in the country. It's got 118 miles of border with Mexico, and if you're looking out the windows of this chopper right now, you can see just sheer cliffs. It looks like over 1,000 feet easily. Some have suggested the border wall might be built in a place like this. It seems unrealistic because of the topography and the sheer distances. You're looking for scores of miles without seeing anything really.
We're now in the Barry Goldwater Air Force Range. It's a kind of a roller coaster of craggy mountains.
I will put this in the description box. I want to go back to Mike Pence's explanation of figures.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are nearly 2 weeks into a government shutdown. But our nation is also in the midst of a crisis on our southern border. And today, President Trump convened for the second time this week Republican and Democrat leaders from the Congress to address both issues. And we are truly grateful for the candid and constructive dialogue that took place today here at the White House with Speaker Pelosi and Leader Schumer, with our Republican Senate leadership as well. And we look forward to continued dialogue over the course of this weekend. Make no mistake about it, we are in the midst of a crisis at our southern border. Every day, nearly 2,000 people are apprehended or stopped attempting to come into our country that have no lawful claim to be here. Last year...
Every day, nearly 2,000 people, every day, nearly 2,000 people are apprehended.
Alone, 17,000 individuals with previous criminal records were apprehended attempting to come across our southern border. Every day, all across this country, in a single week, 300 Americans lose their lives to the scourge of heroin addiction. 90% of the heroin in this country flows through our southern border. And the human trafficking that the President just described so compellingly. Last month alone, 20,000 minors were brought alone across our border, were interdicted by Border Patrol personnel. You heard the President's passion today here at the podium. And we all, Leader McCarthy and all the leaders gathered, the Situation Room today, heard the President's passion for the better part of 2 hours. Not just to address the government shutdown, but to address border security and this crisis at our southern border. And today, President Trump provided the kind of leadership that the American people expect in such a moment. He made it clear that we are committed to achieving border security as we resolve this budget impasse. He made it clear that we are going to build a wall on our southern border. As I said, the conversations were constructive and substantive, and at the close of the meeting, the President directed me and Jared Kushner and Secretary Nielsen to meet with top-level staff of Democrat and Republican leadership in the House and Senate over the course of this weekend and see if we could build on the common ground that we identified in the discussions today. Our aim will be to find a solution, not just simply to end the government shutdown, to provide funding to end the crisis at our southern border, to achieve real border security, and to build a wall on our southern border. And Mr. President, I promise you, as you promised the Republican and Democrat leaderships today, that we will work earnestly over the weekend. We will work in good faith, and the American people deserve nothing less, and we enter this weekend in these discussions hopeful. Again, not simply that we will end a budget shutdown, but that we will make finally meaningful progress on securing our southern border to prevent the flow of narcotics, human trafficking, illegal immigration that has so beset our country now for more than a generation. And with the President's leadership, and direction, we'll hope to accomplish just that.
And I'm going to put the information in the description box. So say, God bless Trump and Mike Pence and actually all the people of the world.